Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us for this episode of That Was History. We're going to get to our 7 stories in just a little bit, but we wanted to talk about some adjustments that we're making on the show before we continue. If you've watched our last episode, you noticed that we posted it just a little bit early, but we're actually going to be doing this in advance from now on. What this means for you is that you'll get your stories ahead of time before that date actually happens. We feel that this more achieves our goals that we had in mind for the show, and it'll give you a conversation piece in the future. Enjoy the show.
Today, people traditionally build their houses out of brick. Brick is a very sturdy and plausible building technique, but due to the fact that it could not withstand water damage, the old methods used by the Egyptians would be reverted back to in order to restore the Great Pyramids. It was on January 12th of 1984 when this technique was brought back into action. It consisted of interlocking blocks and would allow for the project to run more smoothly. It ended up being the right choice of technique after there were complications of the modern restoration of the Great Sphinx in 1981.
For most people, childhood was a time where your imagination controlled your surroundings, and toys were the single most important thing in your life. Because of this fascination, companies have made millions of dollars off of toys for kids, including the Slinky, for example. On January 13th of 1957, another toy would begin production, and it has since impacted children and athletes alike. You ever played with one of these before? I know I certainly have, and it's all because of the Wham-O company's decision to make these bad boys in 1957. Interestingly enough, they wouldn't be known as the Frisbee until June of that same year. Before that, they were known commonly as the Pluto platter.
So just picture this for a minute. You're sitting down at dinner and you're eating a salad. Now think about the lettuce. Have you ever thought that it might not be grown outdoors? Well, on January 14th of 1924, a local newspaper announces the possibility of growing lettuce indoors. This would be grown in a greenhouse-like building that would be very cost-effective. Even the U.S. Department of Agriculture was behind this project and was very confident that good crops of lettuce would be produced in this way.
One of the biggest concerns we have heading into our future is the ratio between our population and the amount of food that we have available to the world. This is already a huge problem, but we're heading in the wrong direction. There's one controversial solution that has been brought up, which is the use of cloning to produce more farm animals for consumption. Interestingly enough, on January 15th of 2008, the Food and Drug Administration actually decided that cloned animals, as well as their offspring, were both fit to eat, as well as they didn't need a special label to identify them in the marketplace. This decision was made after 6 years of study and will likely change the way that we fix dinner in the future.
Could you imagine collecting something from a kid all the way up through your adult life and then becoming the one single person in the world that has the most type of a certain memorabilia? We have a person that fits that title, and his name is Rodolfo Vasquez, and he's an Argentine man. Vasquez started collecting Beatles memorabilia when he was 10 years old all the way up through his adult life until he gained a Guinness World Record for having the most of it. And then on January 16th of 2011, the Argentina Beatles Memorial Museum opened, and it would include all of Vasquez's collection.
If you ever get the chance to visit New York City, you should absolutely see a performance at Carnegie Hall. Some of the best vocal and instrumental artists of our time have performed there, including Benny Goodman and his orchestra, who incidentally performed the very first jazz concert ever at Carnegie Hall on January 17th of 1938. Jeremy and I had the great honor of performing in Carnegie Hall in our chorus class back in high school. Afterwards, we heard some great musical performances by students from other schools around the country. The building was designed with sound dynamics in mind, and it really does prove itself because microphones aren't even required to get the full effect. All the audience members can hear every bit of sound perfectly because of the way that the walls were designed with the building.
It's always nice to have a good cup of coffee or a nice heater when it's really cold outside, but could you imagine being outside for 2 months without any natural conveniences or any way to heat yourself up? Well, on January 18th of 1997, a Norwegian man, Borje Oslin, became the first man to cross Antarctica. He was out there for 64 days by skis or on foot. Now, I can be out in the snow for a couple hours, but not for a whole 2 months. So kudos to you, Mr. Oslin, kudos.
Well, that's our episode, guys. We hope that you enjoyed it as always. Thanks for putting up with us as we're doing our adjusting. We hope that you like the new format, and we'll see you next Friday.
Please follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and please subscribe to our channel, guys.